What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Music Box, a show where I, Bimler, enjoyer of music, show my good friend, Pyrine, an album, and after a week of listening to it, we meet up and we talk about it. He's regressed 20 years in age and is now a little baby. I don't know how this happened, so it looks like I'm going to be doing the show by myself today. The record we're doing today is Radiohead's second studio album, The Bends. I don't know why I said second. I don't think I've ever done that before, but yeah, Radiohead's The Bends is the album on the chopping block this week. A lot of people consider it to be the first great Radiohead album. Didn't take them very long, but, you know, a lot of classics on this thing. It's a fairly run-of-the-mill Britpop, sort of grungier rock record from the mid-90s, you know, drawn from a bunch of different influences and being one of its own. You know, if it wasn't for this record, we wouldn't have it, our Coldplays, our Killers, you know, anything that stuff. No. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting discussion on this record. Some people think it's really overrated. Some people think it's really underrated. Most people seem to think it's at least good. And I'm very curious what you think of it, Mr. Pyrine.
I'm sorry, I just spilled fucking water all over my shirt. I'm a bit of... I really am like a baby right now. I tried to drink my water and it just went all around my mouth on my shirt. Sorry, we're talking about Tom
here.
York. That guy's pretty cool. He's pretty nice.
We're talking about awesome. the Bends, Radiohead, the Bends. Yeah.
I remember we're talking about that. Yeah. I mean, Radiohead's a pretty popular band. Like, I had listened to, like, every now and then I listen to a Radiohead track, obviously, because it just comes on, because, you know, they are in, like, the public circle flow, whatever you call it. I don't want to say radio music because that's demeaning.
No.
I don't, even though they're not radio, that's demeaning. But I have heard them before.
They're popular,
yeah. I think it was kind of the case for, at least before this album, you just kind of had to be in the right mood for it, you know what I mean? Like, there is definitely a certain kind of mode and mentality you gotta take when going into it. And honestly, this album, as I've listened to it, has grown on me a hell of a lot. And I really like it now, a lot more than I was expecting to like it. It was very surprising. Yeah.
So, The Bends, I always say it's like, and the reason I'm starting you on The Bends is it was my first Radiohead album. It was like the first one I listened to, and I think it's the perfect starting point, because it kind of being so real right now. I mean, you haven't heard Pablo Honey, you haven't heard their first album. It's just not very good. It's significantly worse than The Bends, or I guess more appropriately, The Bends is a significant step up from Pablo Honey. And it basically does everything that album does better, while also sprinkling in a little bit of, perhaps in a weird way, you could call it foreshadowing for what the band would go on to do, especially in more spacier moments like Planet Telex, or Street Spirit, or Night's Dream, or even Fake Plastic Trees. It's a very important album in their discography, and if it weren't for it, we certainly wouldn't have OK Computer, and without that record, we wouldn't have anything else. So, The Bends is very, I think, is a good starting point. What did you think of it, like, in terms of how easy it was to get into?
Honestly, the first time I listened to it, like, with you, I thought it was pretty good. Like, it was pretty solid. Nothing crazy. It didn't, you know, strike an immediate chord with me, and it probably still hasn't, but as I listen to it more, it's the kind of music where it's like, you can really only appreciate it after multiple listens, because more starts to, like, pop out to you, and I quite like it. Like, it to me is the epitome of, like, what good 90s music is. Does that make sense? It is. It's very fun. It's not too complicated. There's not, like, a whole lot need to get around, but it's still substantial enough. It strikes a chord with you in the right places, but it's not, like, too lingering, I would say. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but I do think it's quite fun. You mentioned Planet Telex. Honestly, that's like the prime example for it for me. Like literally, it is maximum 90s. You're flying through space in your fucking little spacecraft, like what is it? Like Buzz Lightyear in that one cartoon. It's very fun, and it's honestly not the kind of music I would even normally have listened to had it not been for you literally sitting me down and like making me sit through it and appreciate it, which is something I actually really like. It's a different flavor than what I'm used to. I really like especially how it kind of transitions between rock and folk a lot of the time. You use a lot of guitar in this, and a lot of the times it's like a slow guitar start. It kind of moves on from that. And while there isn't a whole lot of movement when it comes to like the singular tracks, like it kind of just goes up and down a little bit, it still maintains very memorable like themes, very memorable lines. I could probably go through a few of them that I really like, because I actually just ended up grading them. I was so impressed.
Whoa.
Like A through B. It was pretty great.
Yeah, no. I mean, this record definitely, I think it has a really good variety of sounds, especially like, I mean, Planet Telex being a prime example of one of the stranger songs on the record, with its much more electronic instrumentation. At least, especially at the start of the song, but even as it progresses, the guitars are drowning in effects. It just feels like this very trippy, like you said, kind of like spacey experience. But it also has a lot more like run-of-the-mill rock instrumentation. I mean, look at a song like Fake Plastic Trees, or High and Dry, or Just. You know, those are just guitar songs, you know? There's not really a whole lot of fancy mumbo-jumbo happening there. It's very much just, like you said, kind of like peak 90s rock. And I think where this album shines a lot for me, and why I kind of always enjoyed it, and why it kind of hooked me with Radiohead, is that it very much has that feeling, but like you kind of said, after you listen to it several times, you can glean a lot more things from it. Because honestly, The Bends is a pretty fun record, but it's also a really sad record. There's a lot of like really depressing shit on The Bends, but it's also The Bends. It's still fun. You know, that Crash Dummy, he's having a great time.
Dude, he's got like 5 seconds of life, but God, as he's flying towards that brick wall, he is living more than any of us, dude.
Yeah, what do you have to say about that, huh?
What do I have to say about that? I mean, you're goddamn right. What is it? I mean, the title track, The Bends, I think is like the perfect example of this. Like it to me, that is like the song you play. It's a summer day or like a summer afternoon. You're in like a convertible with the top down. Your hair's like flying behind you, sunglasses on, and you're driving like by a beachside or whatever. And you're just like, God, like it is just peak to me. I just love that. It's such a like, you know what it is. I know what it is. It's nothing that's like super crazy, but it's extraordinarily pleasant. It's got enough for you to chew on that if you want to like take a closer look at it, like I did, and like dive into the lyrics, like again, it's fine, but it's not like 18 onion layers deep where it's like, yeah, we gotta figure out like the tempo right here. If we put it into like a translocator, we can find a GPS coordinate. We can give us the real plot of this song. No, it's not like that. It's, to me, it's okay with just being fun, and it still manages to have something substantial with it, which I think is pretty indicative of the entire record, honestly.
I mean, yeah, no, that's definitely true. Like, the Ben's title track is a personal favorite of mine. You know, Just is a very similar song. That song is catchy. That song is so fun, but it's not a happy song, you know. And even if you wanted to go into the beeps and boops and the theories of it, I told you this when we first listened to it. Just is literally the result of the band members being like, hey, I want to see how many chords we can fit into a song. I think the number is in like the high teens or something. Like, it's kind of impressive. But the band definitely, like, when they made this album, and it's clear in certain songs, like the big example being My Iron Lung. This album was definitely like, okay, we need to be more than Creep. We need to be more than our initial success. We can't just be those guys that blew up in the 90s with that one song. We need to create something like really cool and really like heavy here. And the Bends is probably, honestly, like through all of Radiohead's discography, besides maybe one or two records, Tom York's most personal, like, album, where he puts most of himself into its themes and its lyrics. Because Radiohead, and you'll see as we get further into their discography, they write a lot about the world. They write a lot about politics or technology or the future or shit like that. Or even like love and romance. But Tom on the Bends writes a lot about his own insecurities and writes a lot about his own fears, especially with the band's trajectory. And I think it's really cool and gives the album its own sort of importance.
I don't know anything about Tom York besides sometimes the things you managed to send me. I think it was actually kind of crazy. A couple months back, I think back in like the summer of 24, this guy made fun of me a lot for not knowing who Tom York is. I didn't know. And I was at work one day, and in my fucking YouTube recommended feed, there was like a Tom York doing crazy things compilation.
No, I sent that to you.
How the fuck is this happening?
I thought I sent that to you.
No, it was me.
Tom York being himself for 3 minutes? What? Could have sworn I sent that to you.
No, that was me.
What?
No, I found that. It was
I'm
in my
fact-checking
feed,
this right now. Keep talking.
I specifically remember, it was like, I looked at that and I was like, this cannot be fucking real, dude. I wouldn't know really much about, like, the trajectory for the future, what this kind of implements, what it says about, like, the rest of the band it kind of develops into. And admittedly, I don't think every single song on this is, like, super emotionally speaking to me. I think there were a few that I thought were quite good. Actually, let me look at my notes. Let's see. My Iron Lung is probably the most for me. I like that one. It did hit a bit of a note. But at the same time, I kind of just enjoyed it for a bit more of the simple touch. They did have some pretty good lyrics, to be fair. A lot of lines kind of hit pretty hard. What is it? In just one day, he'll get to you and teach you how to be a holy cow. I like that one.
Yeah.
There were a few emotional moments to me. It just didn't hit me that hard. I think probably the reasoning for that is that the songs are quite simple at times to me, and it can kind of end up like losing my focus, attention a little bit. Especially some of the songs like.
Sorry.
What?
Continue. Carry on.
No. You want to share what you fucking said with what's so fucking funny? You want to share with the class?
I sent you the link. I found it.
I think I've lost track of my train of thought now. This whole fucking that
Yeah, see, that's why I wanted you to finish
ruined.
your thought. I wanted you had a good thing going.
Did I have a thought to begin with?
I
don't think
so.
I did.
You were talking. There were words exiting your mouth, and I feel like my chuckle might have sent you off.
Yeah. The reason that I didn't always connect with it like emotionally was just because I did, admittedly, at some points get a little bored, just because it does sometimes drag on a little bit for me. These songs are very short. They're like 3 to 4 minutes, excuse me. Well, the majority of them are good. Some of them to me do feel like, okay, I get what you're doing. You can move on now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, what was it, at the end? I think specifically for Black Star and Sulk had a bit of this going on. Black Star I thought was great. I thought it was a great song.
I was going to say, I was like, you are not about to speak ill of Black Star. I like that song.
No, I thought it was great. The issue is that I think Sulk is too similar to it.
Yeah, no.
I listened to Sulk, I thought it's fine.
Easily my least favorite on the record. I always skip it. It's just kind of boring.
It's like, I can't really connect with it. It's almost like, it makes it hard for me to tell the fucking songs apart, because it's just like, I get it. It's the same thing. Not bad, but it hurts my connection. That being said, I think Black Star, Bulletproof, I Wish I Was. I love those two. Probably
okay,
just
thank God. I was gonna. I was kind of worried when we first listened to it, because you were like very on Bulletproof. That's kind of one of my favorites. I think it's like a really underrated song. Fish. There's a fish. I'm not crazy. I need to angle like. I need to find a way to capture
Fish!
this. Maybe like I'll reflex try and close the camera and then just point at it and you get the POV shot of a fish. Maybe I'll do that next time. I'm gonna keep that in mind. What was I? Oh yeah, right.
You ought to...
Bulletproof is it's a really beautiful song. Some of the best lyrics on the record I think are on that song. Like I don't know, the second verse, like the wax me, mold me, heat the pins and stab them in. You have turned me into this. Like that bit is, I don't know, like that is some ooh.
Yeah.
That Tom York imagery, he does that a lot. Especially on later stuff.
Limb by limb.
And it's great.
Tooth by tooth. I could burst into a million bubbles, all circuit and bulletproof. Wow. It's fucking crazy. And like around, what is it? 1:30, it really feels like you're floating back to the surface of Earth.
When it brings
like
that guitar
in atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then you're slowly descending. I really like Bulletproof, honestly. I thought it was that was probably the most like emotionally speaking album, like song, excuse me, to me. Because it's almost like returning from reality, from delusion. I really liked it for that reason.
That's an interesting take. However, I first of all, I moved. Wow. Second of all, I Raise You Fake Plastic Trees. As that song easily does it for me as the most emotional. And I think most people who've heard the record would agree. That song is an absolute... And I said it when we were listening, I think it's Radiohead's first masterpiece. Like, it is their first, like, near-perfect song. I love Fake Plastic Trees.
That's funny, because looking back on it, Fake Plastic Trees was probably my least favorite. I gave it a C to a B.
Yeah.
I thought it was just fine.
What?
I thought it was just fine.
No, I love that song. You liked it on first listen. You were like, oh, that was my favorite one so far.
Well, all I can say is my opinion has changed since then.
This is crazy. I feel so sad now. That's such a good song.
Don't have opinions.
No.
Just agree.
Agree with me. Yeah, exactly. That's what you should do. That's why we have this show. All right. I'm trying to morph you into a clone.
We're going to have a civil war. We're gonna have like a big breakup and we're gonna like fall apart, and it's gonna be like, do you take the blue side or the green side? And we'll have to like fight in the streets over it.
Pick your half with a note on the icon.
Guys, are you a left halfer or a right halfer? Stick with me. We'll take the war to him.
Oh my god.
No, I think my biggest thing, kind of going back, I thought it started to drag and it lost me by the end. The movement is not noticeable to me enough to retain my interest. And while I thought it was good, I didn't think it was unpleasant. I thought it was just the weakest. It just didn't really do enough to maintain my interest. I apologize if that's gonna get me flayed in the streets.
It will. It will. You will be like lynched.
I look outside. There's like people with like signs and like fucking spears and like signs. It's like, get out of here! You can't hide.
We haven't even released the video yet. We're literally recording it. Like, how does anybody? No. It's like Fake Plastic Trees is like the poster boy of the bands. Like it is everybody's favorite. It's either that song or Just. I feel like. It's also I think one of the, if not the most popular song nowadays from that album. But. Yeah, no, I think, honestly, the pacing of the record, in general, kind of slows down a bit at the end. Like, it kind of loses me a little bit. I think it's a fairly front-loaded record, although I think it's just because of how much I like the first two, Fake Plastic Trees, Nice Dream, Just, like, those are, like, my favorites. And, I mean, Bulletproof is great. Black Star's pretty good. Street Spirit Fade Out is phenomenal. But the back half, I don't know. It doesn't hit me as hard as the front half. That being said, I'm going to talk about Street Spirit. That song's amazing. Please tell me you agree. Good. Okay, thank you. Street Spirit's a really great closer. It
was really interesting. I didn't expect it. Like, it's one of those things, like, you would not expect him to do it, but it really fits the way they do it. Like, it is poignant.
It's so weirdly, like, epic as well. Like, some of the way it builds, some of the lyrics on that song, the imagery in it, like the cracked eggs, dead birds scream as they fight for life. I'm like, dang, what the heck are they?
Yeah.
What? Where do they pull this from? And it's Also, one of Tom York's early like great vocal performances. He carries his notes very well.
Mhm. I mean, I
Um,
think he's done like an amazing job on pretty much every single track. Like, I
that's
think he's
true.
a great vocalist, to be fair.
Yeah.
He slams it.
hmm
And I
And
don't think this album
honestly,
would be even like a quarter as good without him.
yeah. And to be fair, I think Radiohead. Well, Tom York has two very distinct vocal eras, and I think the Bends is one of his best of his first, which is very much like the more raunchy kind of rocky vocal. Whereas once you get more towards like In Rainbows, especially, he starts to croon a lot more and utilize falsetto and doesn't go as raunchy. And while I prefer that style, because I think it's gorgeous and he does it very well, and you will hear it obviously down the line. The Benz, he's always been just a great vocalist. He's got fantastic range, really great control, and something that somebody else had pointed out that I think is really cool that Tom York does with his vocals is that he will hold notes for longer. Like if he hits a note in a song, he'll just stay at that note. He won't move around, and he'll let the band in the background kind of do their thing and shine. He does it in Creep. He does it in a lot of their songs. And honestly, that's for you and the viewers at home. It's a neat way to look at some of the cool Radiohead songs.
That
Yeah.
actually is a good point. I didn't really think about that. He does do that a lot. He'll hold a note, and it's almost like the instrumentation is kind of circling around it, like a planet, like a planet orbiting the sun.
A planet.
It's really interesting. That's
whoa.
like a planet. It all connects back together. He thought of this. He knows.
He knows. Truly genius peak songwriter. Does he know? He doesn't know. Wow. Truly the greatest songwriter of all time. 10 out of 10. He knew it. He knew that this specific comment was going to be made. That's why he wrote the song.
He's
What are we
actually
talking
in my
about?
house right now.
Oh. You didn't invite me? Can't believe that motherfucker's cheating on me. Tom York, that is. I want to clarify.
Yeah. Me and your mother have been meaning to talk about it with you for a while.
What's wrong with you?
No.
What is
What is
your
wrong with
problem?
you? What is wrong with your face, honestly? What is wrong with your face? Your attitude? Your tude, as it were. You honestly need to start...
There's nothing wrong with my face.
How about that upside down smile? It's going the wrong way. It's pointing the wrong direction. Alright? We're here to put on a fucking face for the fucking viewers, and we need to be putting on a fucking performance for them, because they need to see us at our best. And if we're not at our best right now, then guess what? The ad revenue's not going to come, and the Patreon's going to start sinking into the earth, and no one's going to start watching the show, and we're getting to the next episode. It's not going to be happening. No. You need to shake the fuck up.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm sorry. I like the Bends. I think it's a good album. I think it deserves a
I think
little
it's really good
praise.
too.
I don't really think it's super underrated. If anything, at times I'd make the case that it's overrated, as I think a lot of people will hail it as like one of the top Radiohead albums, and it's just not that. I literally think it's their sixth best, which sounds like a bit of a roast, but it's not. Radiohead just has a very, very stacked discography, and I don't think the Bends quite holds up to their best, but it definitely, like I said at the start of the video, needed to happen to make those records possible. It definitely paved the way for things to come and established Radiohead as like really great songwriters and musicians and whatnot.
Yeah, it's kind of the case where it's good that it's a good album that came out pretty early on, because you needed the kind of stepping stone for good to go into great. Like, that's the problem when it comes to a lot of like creators and stuff, is that everyone wants to be great on like their first try. They want to make like the perfect piece of art their first try. They don't want to actually go in the process of making something good and learning from that. Everyone's supposed to be perfect, and that's not how it works. You can still appreciate like your old works. I thought this was great. Maybe I will continue to think that as we continue moving on. Maybe I'll think, oh, it's compared to the other ones, it's still good. But like you mentioned, like OK Computer, In Rainbows, maybe that'll blow my mind. Hopefully it will. But I still think it's a very solid, good album, and there's nothing wrong with that. there's a lot of like, I think, mentality where it's like, just because something isn't peak doesn't mean that it isn't worth praise and attention. Like, I think this is very, very solid and has every right to be as popular as it is compared to maybe some bigger albums out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a short. I feel like we kind of breezed through this. Like we're only. Like,
I mean, there's not always a whole lot to say. That's kind of the problem. It's
no, to be fair, like I think there is, but we just kind of said it all. I don't know, because the Bends is a really it's not a super complex album. It's an emotionally rich one. It's got a lot of ideas on it. It's got a lot of different musical, I said variety on it, but it's not complex, if that makes sense. It's a very simple album, and I think that works to its strength. Like, when I got into Radiohead, and this was the first time I listened to, I liked it. I thought it was good, but I knew they were going to get better, and I knew that I'd recognize the Bends as like, oh yeah, this is kind of before they went full Radiohead. This is still them in their like 90s rock era. And it's good. I really liked it. And it just kind of made me excited to hear what was next, I guess. Which honestly, we will have a lot more to say about those records, I'm sure.
That's the same for me. That's the biggest thing for me so far. Is like, if this is what I'm listening to first, I'm excited to see what's next, because I think the only other song that comes to mind for me is Motion Picture Soundtrack, which you've literally showed me before. And if that's like anything to go by for what comes later, I am like fucking really excited, because I really fucking love that song. That song is great. And
that is a great song.
As for this album, nothing wrong with it being simple. Sometimes simple is what you need. You don't want to be thinking about your own mortality while cruising on the street with the fucking like top down, because that's how I start driving on the left lane.
You'd be listening to the Bends, and then Motorbike comes on from the new sound. You're like, oh, in your room, I'm listening to your song. It's the best I've ever heard.
That comes on. My lock on fucking feature comes on. The oak tree in the distance lights up like a fucking like Fallout 4 VATS, and I'm like, boom, my wife in the right seat's like, what are you doing? Stop! Like, I flip the wheel.
I've hung around here too long. No, we're calling back too much. We gotta stay on topic. Go watch the new sound episode. That's a good episode. But
and you should also subscribe and hit the bell icon.
It's okay. No, we're not doing that. Cut that shit out.
You mean we're allowed to shill if it's us?
No, I think you should subscribe to Kai Cenat.
I think you guys should do whatever you think is nice and whatever you feel like doing, and because you have free will and you can do what you want.
Your babies in the ocean. Who's going to stop you? The babies? What the hell? That's more fucked up than me saying it. You sound affected it.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I just made it immersive.
Wrong. That's just
you
wrong.
Put the idea
Some
in the viewer's head.
Things don't need to be made immersive, Pyrine. That's just fucked up. It's fucked up.
Okay, fine. I'm gonna save it.
In my head.
An eagle comes swooping down, swoops up, picks up the baby like a stork, brings it back into the mother's arms, who accidentally dropped her infant child. The day is saved.
Stop.
You're welcome.
Stop.
Viewers.
Stop. Just no. We're done. Okay, I'm wrapping it up. The Bends, great album. I like it a lot. It's like I said, not their best. I'm repeating myself here. I'm just gonna give it a score. I think Radiohead's The Bends is a solid like 86 for me.
Really? I would give it a bit higher. I would say it's like an 89 for me, honestly.
Wow. Okay. Well, then I'm excited to show you what's next. But we're not going to really be doing just Radiohead now, because that'd be a bit boring. What my plan is, I'm going to alternate. We'll do Radiohead every other week. But the next album we're listening to, this album right here.
Oh, no.
Point. What do you do? Point at the album. Point. There you go. Yeah. That.
You're pointing at the album.
That one is one of my favorite records ever, forever. It's amazing. It's my favorite album by this band, and you've already heard an album by this band. So, it's going to be pretty cool. And we'll be doing that next week. Don't cry. Don't cry.
Nothing matters. Sorry.
What do you mean nothing matters? Of course stuff matters. Like the next episode of the show, which will be coming
so
out
true.
next week. Whoa!
Whoa! Watch out next Monday for the next episode that's
Of
going
the
to be coming out
music
in
box. Whoa! Wow! Wicked!
And let us know what you think about this album in the comments below, and we'll read them and we'll say they're awesome. How about that?
That's true. We will do that. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Why? Snap out of it, dude. You can't keep doing that.